goes deuce two. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Unfiltered Out There. Today we have a special guest. Right beside me, we've got PATx. What is going on, man? If you want to introduce yourself a little bit and tell people where to find all your music and everything you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. I'm PATx. That's capital P-A-T, lowercase x, one word. The lowercase x is super important. Yeah, I make music, I make films, I just create, I just contribute to the creative ether.
I like how you said ether. Growing up a farm boy, we people nowadays call it starter fluid, but we're like, get a can of ether, it would get anything going, just spray it on the tractor, it'll just get to going,
Whatever works.
When I hear ether, I'm like, oh yeah, that's legit. That's like jet fuel. That's cool, man. So when you say lowercase x, very important.
Yeah.
Why is that?
At first I was gonna pull like a Maroon 5 and just like never tell anybody why.
That's cool too.
It's one of those things where it holistically it only like makes sense to me, but it's just representative. I'll put it like this: based on what it represents, it's crucial that it's not bigger than the PAT.
Okay, no, that's cool. I do like it. I'll look at it. I'm like, man, that definitely means something. So PATx. So all your socials just at PATx?
I am PATx. Yep, on Instagram. And somebody took it on TikTok. I think I took it on TikTok because I like fucked up and trying to set up the account. And so now it's just a dead account, which is so annoying. I think it's PATx got a TikTok on TikTok, which sucks.
We should hack it.
Honestly, to look at an account that you made on accident and TikTok won't give it to you. But yeah.
Yeah, man. So I know you said, of course, you make music and films. I've seen a lot of your music videos, man. Definitely some of the you've got a unique creative take on whenever, I almost want to get in your mind whenever you're making a music video with some of these. I'm like, man, that's the thought process to how the video is correlating with the song.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell he had a lot of fun with it. But do you strictly just make like music videos, or you just like, vlogging, or you're like, hey, I'm working on a horror film? I don't know.
Yeah, I've been wanting and trying to get more into documenting the process, because a lot of what I do is kind of like to myself, not in any like, not that I'm like scared to document it or whatever. I just don't kind of really think about documenting the process.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just kind of lock in. But I'm trying to get better about documenting that process because I know I would want to see an artist that I fuck with, see what their process is like, see what they're like in the studio. You know what I mean? I think it gives a whole lot more context to what's happening, especially when you're at this level and you're doing certain things and people might assume that you have like a team behind you or that you went to like a professional studio or whatever, and it's like, nah, bro, I'm from the sticks. Like,
yeah, I rebuilt my bathroom for this.
There you go.
Exactly.
It's like exactly. So I think that's super important, especially at this stage, to document the process.
No, that's awesome, man. That's something I definitely don't do either. People ask me similar questions. I'll record a drum video like, how did you do it, or how did any of it happen? I'm like, I don't know, just watch the video. And then I'm like, actually, I remember 5 years ago when I was asked questions like, how do I do this, that, and another? I'm like, I should probably start doing the same to reach back and, teach somebody new. I've learned something. I need to reach back and show them. And, it's not on purpose. I can see where you're coming from. It's just you get so into it, and it's like a personal thing, your music, your videos. And then you're like, oh, well, maybe I should just set up a camera rolling the whole time, edit it out.
That's a good point, like reaching back and like teaching somebody, because the worst thing ever is whenever like you'll see a high profile person get asked like, what advice do you have for the younger people? And they're like, stay positive and keep going. It's like, what the fuck? Like, that's not useful at all. You know what I mean? I want to be the person that's like, hey, this thing that you think matters doesn't matter. Do this instead. Like actionable things.
Yeah, I mean, and it's such a unique generation. We've got what is it, Gen X, Gen Z? I can't even remember. And I'm like, a millennial, of course. I'm not saying any generation is greater or less. It's just I keep trying to like relate to this new generation. People hitting the workforce, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. I'm like, y'all have had the like iPads and stuff like that for majority of your life, and I'm like sitting here like, why wasn't I using this earlier to make a lot of money with like crap like we're doing right now? It's like, dang it. I'm like, but, and it's not like it's their greater or less. I'm like, you had, I grew up like having a video game. I had to, oh crap, do it again. All right, it'll play. You know, it's like, now you just like download. And I'm like, that's so cool though. I'm not hating on it. It's just, it's neat. And I tell a lot of people too, it's perspective's key, but every mountain always has two sides. You know, it's I enjoy the reward of hiking up that hard side, just so I'm like, do I sled down this side or do I just kind of like walk down it, enjoy what I did to get up there, you know?
Yeah, and that's the cool part about our generation is that we grew up with technology, so we have a whole lot more context than somebody that kind of like popped out the womb with an iPad, you know what I mean? Because like if a computer messes up, then we might have an idea of how to fix it, or like people that use like CapCut or whatever, when that goes away, they don't know how to edit videos. It's like
that was crazy when TikTok went down. It's like, damn. So I guess CapCut is also TikTok. That sucks because I was trying to edit a video. It's like, goodbye. I was like, no, why? Just wait 10 minutes.
Or even things like removing the background. It's like, oh my God, how do I remove the background without CapCut? And I was like, ooh, I remember this thing called green screen where you had to do that manually or whatever. So it's just kind of cool to see it evolve and then stay like hip to it. You know what I mean? We're not so old that we don't understand AI and shit.
Yeah, no, AI is cool. Some days, because I don't like talking to Siri. I feel like Siri doesn't like me or Alexa, so I'll get on like the Grok, I think Elon Musk made it. It's the version of AI where it's like uncensored. It's not like, so it's just, so I'll just get some random stuff. I'm like, if I saw a guy walking down the road and he was asking for money, should I give him money or food? And then it's so funny to see what AI says to stuff like that. I'm like, it says, you could use the money to buy food and give the leftover money to him. I'm like, no, chill. I asked for an like A or B, you know? And it's so funny. I'm like, damn, why didn't I just, that's the right answer, of course. But like, you know, it's like crap, you know, it's at what point is AI going to like, you know, be among us in a different way? You know, it's like a walking cyborg.
Yeah.
I often think that. I feel like we're not too far, and I'm like, that could be cool. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know what to think about it, but
for sure,
if it is like, you know, robots or something with AI in them, they commit a crime. Do we give them rights? You know, I'm like, I'm so conflicted. Like, how do we need to think this out before it becomes a thing?
Yeah.
You know,
and I don't even like necessarily like the phrase like liberal or whatever. It's like you feel how you feel, but at what point do I stop becoming liberal? When like aliens come and they want to like get married and shit, or when like robots become sentient and they want certain rights? Like, do I become conservative then, or do I stay like
it's
you know?
I definitely, you know, it's crazy because I ask a lot of people, you know, it's because it's an easy topic to talk about because I love researching aliens for the simple fact of, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I can prove, but like, you don't ultimately know the answer, like factually, like Christianity. You know, I'm a Christian, but I'm like, you know, it's by faith. You know, that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
But I like it because no one can get too mad in a conversation about aliens because no one really knows. Who's sitting there like they could be in the ocean. Yeah, that's true. I'm like, oh yeah. You know, because I feel like the ocean is just the universe upside down. It's like, because we can't explore but so much of it. I'm like, I bet you they're just chilling down there. Like, one day they're going to pass by the air bubble and we're going to crap. Like,
yeah,
you know,
the ocean's like, I'm terrified of the ocean. It's crazy how as soon as you get like 1,000 feet down, like as soon as there's no light, that's when things start looking fucked up.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying.
Well, and I thought about this theory too the other day is, you know, how they say, and I'm not saying the earth is flat by any means, but it is confusing whenever they say the core of the earth is like lava. It's like this hot core.
Right.
But when you get all the way down to the bottom of the ocean, it's ice cold. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's why I don't ever knock people's like weird beliefs, because it's like there's stuff that we've quote unquote proven that's even weirder. So like, why would I bash you because you believe in something like equally weird? We're on a ball.
Yeah, I haven't been on a spaceship yet. I mean, if I get to go to outer space, but yo, it's triangle. It's more like spherical-ish. You know, we were all wrong. You know, that's cool, man. I saw recently. So tell me about your show when you came to Columbia recently with the township. Who were you performing with, and how did that go about? How'd you get that opportunity? Because I know That looked like an awesome time, man. An
Yeah.
awesome gig.
Yeah, so I opened for Method Man and Redman. Well, I was one of the openers for Method Man and Redman. Shout outs to Bakari, Rael, Sky Zoo, and Trevi and the Enemy. Yeah, as far as how it came about, damn, do I even know how it came about? Greg Sword, who I've known for a couple of years now, he essentially like spoke in a room that I wasn't in when acquiring that show, and I think in the Free Times article, he just kind of mentioned like when I thought about who would be a good opener for hip hop legends, like PATx was the first to pop. I just said my name in third person, but was the person that he thought about. So I'm honored to have been, considered and then ultimately chosen for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's cool, man. The township, I mean, to some people out in a bigger lake, and we're more of like a small lake, and there's the Great Lakes, when it comes to like, cities and, music scenes, but like townships not a joke, man. That's a cool spot. I've seen a lot of massive bands there. I mean, big headliners. I'm like, why are you here? Not like Coliseum or something. I'm like, well, this is cool because it is jam packed. Those are the best shows too. Whenever you're like elbow to elbow, and it's like whether it be rock and roll or hip hop or whatever it is, it's cool, and it's a sweet venue, man.
Yeah, I thought it was a church when I first got to Columbia, and apparently it was designed after a church. But
that makes sense.
Then I looked on the marquee, and it was like Incubus is playing here. And I was like, I don't
not a church.
I was like, I don't think this is a church. That's a little too on the nose.
Might be like a church of Jim Jones, passing out Kool-Aid on the way in.
I think it was like right before COVID too. I was like, dang, is everybody doing that bad that we've opened up the church for just venues for
damn that would be a Columbia thing. Like it's supporting the cause, the Lord will bless them. Incubus just do a little prayer for us, while you're up there. Nah, that's cool, man. So moving back to South Carolina soon. That's exciting. So I guess tell us about your time in Dallas. I know we briefly talked about it before the podcast, but what kind of sent you out there, and
yeah. I've been trying to think of like a cohesive way just to like explain the happening. I really like the word crucible because that's kind of what it, not even kind of, that's what it feels like. I thought I went out there for a job opportunity. I have a background in film and in production, so there was an opportunity out there. And yeah, I got there and like everything just like started falling apart. And so what I actually went out there for was to just have like a hard reset and to like experience a rock bottom, for lack of better words, so that I can like come back with clarity and growth and healing and personal development.
I mean, those are important, man. I mean, whether or not you got the full spectrum of that or not, I mean, it's and I take a lot of pride in my heritage, being half Native American. It's always been something that I question all the teachings. The Cherokee were the only ones that adapted Christianity. They're like, that's pretty much on point with everything we believe, because they didn't necessarily worship the totems, things like that. It's a very common misconception. You've got the Blackfoots and the Shawnese and, other indigenous Native Americans that would do things like that.
Sure.
Especially, there was a lot of cannibal ones too. And a lot of people don't realize like what was actually going on. It's so cool to read, books like The Black Elk Speaks is a great book. It's written from the perspective of the Apache, and it's a crazy read. I could go on for hours about how it's very vulgar, but it was like written from the actual time, from the perspective of essentially like what would happen whenever they captured like a cowboy or the white man or whatever, because it was definitely, when you look at these old Western movies, of course, there was definitely just a bunch of effed up freaking white people, but like it was definitely a combination deal when it came to things out there, because the Apache, a lot of that wasn't ever their land. All they were set out to ever do is just conquer. They essentially are from like Washington, and they would just conquer, kill, rape, freaking horrible things, all these other tribes, and they made it down to like Texas, Arizona area. And they were like, this is ours. And they're like, no, we've actually talked to the locals, you know, like it's the Navajo are like, hey, you're not it. That, you know, we're cool with them somewhat. We can trade. We got some deals.
Mm.
And it's just a crazy story. But like, you know, the journey of epiphany and resetting, that kind of thing, it's important. Only if you go into it, you know, with that right mindset of either every time I've done one, my mindset's like, I don't know what I want, but I'm going to go and do this and I'm
Yeah.
open.
Yeah, for sure. And at first I felt like jaded, you know what I mean? Because sometimes it's hard to like read those signs of whether like you shouldn't do this or if this is just like the natural tension that comes with trying to elevate and whatnot. But yeah, like I said, in hindsight, I'm grateful for it, and I know it's not something that I would have volunteered for, so it had to
Yeah.
come in the form of me thinking that this was a job opportunity or whatever the case may be. That shit was rough. It's like the hardest thing I've done to date. I've been through some shit, but like that was rough. That was really rough. But like I said, the amount of clarity that I have, the amount of like betting on myself now that I have, I definitely wouldn't have acquired or would have spent more time than I needed to acquiring, you know, had I not gone out there.
No, I totally agree. I was telling someone the other day, I think it was some other artist I was talking with on a podcast, and he was conflicted about coming to Columbia, coming back here or not. And I had told him the way I've always viewed Columbia as being a musician, at least, you know, from being in punk rock bands way back in the day or doing heavy metal or, you know, touring around with all the hip hop guys, and we had a lot of fun. Is I've always viewed Columbia like, you ever watch the Dragon Ball Z?
Mhm.
So it's like when Goku would go to the hyperbolic time chamber and he would go in and be like 3 episodes later, he comes out and you're like, holy shit. Okay. Like, how did that happen? He's just like, I ate a bunch of soup and freaking bench pressed the world. And then that's kind of how I view Columbia. It's like a hyperbolic time chamber, a place to come and almost kind of maybe not reset. It can reset for some people, but a quiet place to, you know, build your projects, build, you know, those relationships. Cause that's one good thing about the South is, you know, people do like to have those sit down talks and they like to, you know, it's not so fast paced, which is great for people when they're trying to do big things at times. And it's a good place to kind of reset and do that and meet new people and, you know, work on these projects. And then, like I said, you can just travel a few hours to go to all these big areas like Cat Williams, dude, one of my favorite comedians of all time. Him and Danny McBride, both of them are some of my favorite comedians, you know. Cat Williams has basically said, screw off Hollywood. And he's bought, he's funny. I was watching his stand-up special about this. He bought 2,000 acres between Augusta and Atlanta. And he's got nothing but all these farm animals. He's like, yeah, I got my goats and my ducks, you know, and he's out there, you know. He's like, but he's building his own facility for people to go to and do comedy or do film or do anything that is like, you know, because he was canceled, non-cancelable. It's like where people can just do their passion and have fun. And I can foster a place for people to thrive and do that.
Yeah.
You know, and to where it's like, you know, people have that opportunity to have a step up and not be so aggressive as Hollywood, you know, from people who know what it's like that haven't forgot the struggle to get to where they got.
Yeah.
You know, and he's really reaching back. And so is Danny McBride. He's the guy who was in East Down and Bound and super funny comedian. I don't know if you know him, but he bought and built his own studio in Charleston.
That's sick. Yeah.
And a lot of that's cool. It makes me realize coming back here was a good decision, you know?
Yeah. And then I think part of what influenced my decision, aside from, you know, thinking the grass was greener, was like, can I leave home? You know, because like a lot of my family like hasn't left Lancaster or Kershaw, wherever they're from, or hasn't been on a plane and this, that, and the third. And like, you know, like if it came down to it, could I leave home? And one, the answer is yeah, right? So it's like I'm coming back knowing that this is where I'm supposed to be. And then, like I said, I've been back maybe like 5 days, and before I even got to South Carolina, my schedule just filled up like that. You know what I mean?
I bet that was a good feeling.
Yeah,
you know?
and the creative space and all the welcome homes I've been getting, and yeah, it just felt right. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that'll help. You know, kind of going into, you know, another thing I was gonna ask is like, you know, what music projects are you working on like currently?
Mhm.
And or like, you know, what do you have in store for, you know, your mindset for coming back home now? Like, are you planning like a new project after whatever it is you're working on to be like, I think I'm in a headspace now where I can do this or do that, or I've got this crazy idea, you know, and it's like, you know, what's kind of your I won't say like 10-year plan, but like what does your year look like with your music and your goals and all
Yeah,
that?
for sure. So within all of this, back in June of 2024, I dropped my hard drive and lost like 85% of my work.
Oh no.
Yeah, things I've been working on since like I was 18, you know what I mean?
That's devastating.
Yeah, yeah. And so this album, throughout my crucible, the 6 month,
I get
whatever.
why you use that word now. It's making sense.
Yeah, and that was
Yeah.
just kind of like the catalyst, you know what I mean? Which kind of led to losing a significant other and then losing all of my money because, you know, I quit the job and that and just everything, right? But throughout that whole process, I was creating an album. Um, and so this is kind of like the first pieces of music that I've made since losing the work. Um, this is what I'm like returning to South Carolina with, you know. It's also like I feel like I'm entering a new level musically in terms of like fusing alternative and hip hop. So I think this is a really good example, holistically of that, rather than like this song being predominantly alternative and this one being a little bit more boom bap, hip hop, trap, whatever pocket I'm in hip hop. I think this project and a lot of the songs like just musically fuse all those things together in a way that I personally haven't heard before. And so I'm happy to contribute that. And that's probably what my year is gonna look like. Just kind of putting that out, and the way that I'm putting that out is, I think, innovative. And then getting in my film bag a little bit more, working on a series, and just shooting my shot a lot more. I think that's something that's kind of my motto right now. Like, there's so many opportunities out there that it's just like a numbers game. You know what I mean? So like applying for stuff, or if this seems like a cool idea, obviously not stretching yourself in 100 different ways, but it's like, if I'm passionate about this and I want to do it, then do it, and then make everything else make sense around that. You know what I mean? Like, don't operate
Yeah.
within what you think is your means. Operate in the things that you want to do, and then everything else will kind of fall into place. You know?
Yeah, it's kind of like a lot of people, you know, it's an old Cherokee proverb. A lot of people, they're like, oh, they want all these nice things. Like they want the rain to come. They want, you know, and I use that metaphor of like, you know, people pray for the rain, but they're not willing to deal with the mud too. You know,
Yeah,
it's like,
it's huge.
it's so important to understand, like, I want that grit. I want to go through the mud because then I feel like it's fake. Not saying if someone didn't give me an opportunity, I wouldn't be like, okay, I didn't earn this. It would feel weird. I didn't, but subliminally, I earned it some way. You know, I did something. Like I think the universe is like, hey, this is a thank you for that time you did this thing. Like you just have to be accepting sometimes, and it's also like a lot of people aren't willing to understand if you want something you've never had, you have to do something you've never done.
Yeah,
You know?
my old high school coach used to say,
Yeah, my wrestling coach told me that.
You got to do something extra.
And that's always stuck with me. I'm like, damn it. I'm like, so what does that mean? Like, I got to do like more chin ups. She's like, I don't know. Figure it out. I'm like, that doesn't help. You know? That's cool, man. So films, you know, like music videos and stuff, it was kind of hard for me to even like place your genre, you know, because I was like, I don't even see fully like hip hop and all this your stuff. I'm like, it's just a very unique creative sound. And it's groovy, man. It's cool. It's like definitely have you ever heard of the artist Odyssey?
Yeah.
Yeah. So not a lot of people have. Yeah.
One of like my top albums.
I met him so randomly. Dude, I've met a few people in life, and it's been such a blessing. I used to just buy tickets to random concerts. I'm like, I don't give a crap what it is. I'm showing up. And I was up in Greenville. No, I was at the Orange Peel in Asheville. And I bought these tickets from some dude selling them on the side of the road. I showed up. And before the show, I'm drinking a cup of coffee by the back door. Not many people there. And this dude walks up and he's talking. And he's got his Ray-Bans on. I'm like, man, it's a weird room. I'm like, where are the oranges? And he's just laughing. we get to talk, and he's like, I got to get on stage. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so he plays, and I'm like, dude, this dude's great. And then someone's like, gave me the CD. I'm like, oh, this is Odyssey. And he was super cool, just talking with me and not caring, you know. It was just a very cool interaction. Then I listened to his music, and I see, not saying your sound is like his, but I get a similar feeling of, you know, it's a very unique thing. Each album is a project within what, you can do anything. So this is that,
That's
kind of
so
like Linkin
tight.
Park, it's
That's
like
so tight that you know Odyssey. That's really cool.
I met DMX too. That was a crazy experience when I used to DJ at a club in Greenville. That one wasn't as cool. But he was a cool guy. I was going to do music with him, and then he just very stuck in alcohol and things like that, and it was tough. Steve-O was one of the coolest guys I've ever met, and it was the biggest accent in the world. It was
Nice.
I grew up watching Jackass. He's definitely the craziest white guy ever. Hands down, done the stupidest stuff there is. But meeting him showed me there's humility in fame. It was one of the coolest things that I hold so near and dear to me, because I've seen him live 3 or 4 times, and every time I see him, he like gives me a hug. He's like, "You got the blank tap, man." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "It's fucking cool."
Yeah, I'm not surprised that he's cool as hell.
Yeah, but Bam Margera was kind of an asshole, and that sucks because I grew up skating with his skateboards and stuff. I'm like, well, he was kind of that way in the show anyway, so I'm like, whatever,
Yeah.
But it was cool, and it's I know that he actually took more from that, because he told me that than I felt like I took from him taking an hour just to talk to me. He said this was more important for him, just talking with someone he's never met. And I was like, dude, I don't want a picture, an autograph, or anything. This is cool. I'm like, I'm cool with this. He's like, no, we're taking a picture. Come here.
Yeah.
And it was definitely cool. And it showed me, one of the fears I used to have when I would be really, having high aspirations. I'd be afraid of getting in the limelight. And I'm like, I don't want to get to a place to where people think I'm not approachable or things like that anymore, just because that is the status quo. And I'm like, hell no, I don't want that.
Yeah.
And then meeting some of these people I've met have just truly showed me it's whatever you want it to be.
For sure. And then it's also sometimes nice whenever you, what's the word I'm looking for? Subvert the expectation of not being approachable.
Yeah.
Because sometimes whenever I would drop those heavier songs and whatnot, people would listen to those before they met me. And then they meet me and I'm super soft spoken and don't want to murder people.
Yeah.
And that's nice for people. So sometimes it's kind of cool to be on a platform or in a space where you're seemingly unapproachable, but you still are down to earth and whatnot. I think it helps contribute to the negative idea of celebrity and whatnot. So I think we need a lot more down to earth people in the limelight.
And I think that same mentality I used to think, at least for the past few years, until about last year, maybe year before, I thought the music scene in Colombia was just gone. I was like, because and granted, my perspective was so void and jaded. I went from, New Brooklyn Tavern way back in West Columbia to where that piece of crap place was home, or Got Rocks up in Greenville, or freaking the Radio Room in Greenville, or all these cool little spots. And then I started just going to shows, random shows again about a year ago, and I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, a lot more country. But, I'm like, hey, this is cool. There's this 12-year-old's out here singing with a band. I'm like, that's freaking awesome. I don't care. She's out there doing some Shania Twain. And I'm like, that's freaking cool. And then I go to I'll go downtown and I'll see just random people. And I've met so many more people. And I'm like, I think people's perspective has went through this crazy cycle after COVID of freaking out to either you keep freaking out or you use that as a time to figure out what you really want to do in life. I feel like a lot of people, it's just kind of not leveled them out, but giving them more of a passion. And I could tell that in the conversations I have with people on the day to day, how their demeanor, they've gone through this crazy thing now. Some people haven't gone through crazy things, but everyone now has, it's something we can all relate to, it's
for sure.
It's been cool, especially Columbia's definitely a good spot to be back to, man. I mean, definitely say a lot more venues, a lot more stuff happening. The laws have changed. You can busk on the side of the street and get paid now. I'm like, except for that's a pain in the ass to haul downtown. So shit, let me get a Junbei or something.
That's true.
That's cool, man. So do you got any ideas for the new album? Like any names or any songs already in the works?
Yeah. Like the track list is done. The cover art is done. Like I just announced the release date and everything. It'll be April 12th. So yeah, all the musical elements are done. Right now I'm just kind of finalizing some of the packages. So like the original 5 songs will be on streaming, but the full album will be on my website for purchase. And so there'll be 3 different like package options to choose from, and each one of them has tangible things. Even accessing the album, it comes with something you can touch that gives you digital access to it.
Oh, so you're selling like actual physical albums?
Yeah,
That's so cool, man. I know that sounds so weird, but like I grew up in a time period waiting in line with the guy at Best Buy. I'm like, I want to scan the CD so I can hear the song. You remember all that? Like, it's I love the tangible. Is it like physical vinyls or CDs or?
No, so I was trying to figure out because I've been like messing around with like cassette tapes and like burning my own cassettes and stuff, and that's been teaching me to like appreciate the process a little bit more than digital. And so I was trying to find something that had that feeling of tangible but still had the convenience of digital. And so it's a keychain that looks like a little mini CD where you open it up, but the CD is an NFC tag that you scan with your phone, and then
that's
you
so
stream
cool.
the project the same way you would on.
Dude, that's freaking cool. Because I'm the same way. I want to give somebody something.
Yeah.
I refuse to just put it on Spotify. I'm like, no, I won't do it. I won't do it. I will do it if I'm like offering something else, and I'm like, what do people actually buy? And a CD's a waste of money. I'm like,
Yeah.
That's freaking cool, dude.
Yeah, I'm super excited for it. And I'm big on like tea, like hot tea and stuff. So it'll have a tea blend in it that you can kind of sip on while you listen to the project.
How long have you been drinking like hot teas?
Oh, probably like going on a decade now.
It's funny, man. The first time I ever had hot tea, I had that like and this I was probably like 12, so we're talking like a lifetime ago. And I was sick, so I got that medicinal like tea with all the stuff, and it tastes like straight death if you're not like you don't like it,
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then I like drink it all, and on the last sip, I'll never forget this last sip. And it's so funny because I drink sleepy tea. I don't smoke any pot or anything. Not judging. I don't drink beer before bed. If I need to calm down, I drink like freaking stress relief tea. I'll put like 3 bags in there. I'm like, good to go. I'm gonna pass out now, and I always sleep better than taking like ZQL.
Yeah.
That last sip, I was like, that actually tastes pretty good. Like, what the hell was the rest of this cup? And ever since then, I've just put 2 tea bags in. I'm like, it's great. I don't even put honey in it.
You said the stress relief tea?
Yeah.
The kava.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love kava.
Like the Yogi brand or something. Normally, that's just the mainstream stuff. I see people like build their own tea bags, like World Market. I'm like, that's fucking cool. But I'd end up putting like damn freaking catnip in there and not paying attention. I'd be like, like what happened?
Right. No, for sure. I love kava. It's from a root. And a lot of Pacific Islanders will use it as like a alcohol replacement because it kind of gives you like a little bit of a euphoric feel to it. They use it in their ceremonies and stuff. And yeah, I drink it without honey too.
Yeah, but honey's definitely, if I ever add a sweetener to anything, I'd prefer it be honey.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, that's cool. A lot of people hate on the tea life, and I'm like, whatever. That's cool, dude. I like sweet tea too, but not like, it's so crazy. You grew up in Lancaster. I'm sure your family had a lot of sweet tea growing up too.
Yeah.
So it's so crazy growing up where sweet tea was always in the fridge. And then, I'll never forget, man, we show up to like Bojangles, wherever it's at. And it would always be the talk of the town if that damn tea sucked. There would be like the whole rest of the day, they're like, they didn't clean the urn. Why didn't they freaking clean the filter? I could tell it was like, why didn't they do that? Why didn't they have freaking, I don't know, Sally making the tea? She always puts an extra little bit of love in there. And I'm like, now not having tea every day, whenever I drink a glass, maybe like once a month, I don't drink it often. I'm like, this is great, But I always flash back to that, just sitting in the back seat, like while mom's just like, who the hell made the tea?
And suddenly you're like not from a place because of your tea.
Yeah, Southern problems. How was the tea made?
It's so intense now. Like shout outs to sweet tea because I'm not gonna lie. not gonna bash my area and whatnot and the culture, but it's so intense because the further south you are, the deeper in the cut you are, it becomes sugar with like a side of tea.
You seen the original Men in Black, like the first one?
Uh-huh.
I always refer back to the scene right at the beginning when the dude's outside and the alien, like, goes inside the dude and he comes inside the house and he's like, more sugar, water. And she's just, more.
Exactly.
I'm like, hey, I know where they filmed this at. I figured it out.
Straight syrup is so intense.
No, that's cool, man. It's but it's been so crazy, man. I love whenever I've met so many people and I've changed so many different people's opinions on the world in 18 podcasts. I met this dude who came, so I've been working at the zoo for about a decade.
Okay.
And I'm over in the entire food operations there, and this guy came in. I wasn't even at work that day. And I guess you can film with your Ray-Bans and no one knows. I was like, what the hell? How's this dude filming this? How does he not see the camera? I'm like, the guy who's working there and he's doing a food review. He's just, I'm like, how does he not notice the camera? He's so nonchalant talking about this guy. Like, how does he not see the camera?
Yeah.
He does a food review and it's not great, but it's also not horrible. I reached out to him. I'm like, hey, dude, you want to do a podcast? And he's like, yeah. And so I ended up meeting him and ended up being one of the coolest, like connections that everyone was like, why would you do that? I'm like, one, he seems like a cool guy. Two, that's my food operation. So
yeah,
why are you getting mad?
Right.
I'm trying to right the wrong here in a comical way. I'm like, I'm going head on with this. And the dude came over and we talked for hours, man. He's from Sumter and we were talking about the same stuff. Like it's, it was just really refreshing, to talk with him and it be a very unique perspective on everything. Especially, I was like, why do you do food reviews, man? I love eating food, but like, do people like fear you when you walk in the building? He's like, yeah. He's like, they know who I am. I was like, that's freaking crazy, man.
Yeah, that is sick.
It's just been cool. People have just been coming to me randomly. I haven't met, and it's been the greatest gift of life is just getting to talk to so many people. It's literally, I couldn't put a price tag on it for the world. I just enjoy meeting people, talking about their stuff, whatever's going on in life, man. It's cool because sometimes they don't think about, speaking it out loud until maybe they're on a podcast,
Yeah, no, for sure. And like sometimes you're because it's like first person, it's isolating sometimes, and you know you're not by yourself, but it's until you kind of speak it out and the other person receives it, then you realize like your perspective of the world could be totally different, or whenever you connect and there is similarities, it's like it makes you feel a little less crazy or alone, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I definitely get that, man. So let me ask you this too. So how long have you been doing music, And that can be whenever you say it started or whenever. It doesn't have to be from the first song. It could be that first time you were like standing by the mailbox and you heard that bird singing and you're like, I could do that.
I could
like,
do like I can make noise at 8 a.m.
I'm gonna wake them all up.
Right. Yeah, so from the point I decided like, hey, I'm gonna pursue music, it's been about 11 years. I grew up in church, Southern Baptist, and so I was forced to be on the choir and lead songs and all of that jazz when I was little, and I hated it. And so I was like, what can I do to where I don't have to keep leading songs? And I was like, I'm gonna play on the band. And so I jumped on the keyboard, and my mentor at the time, he gave me like this super old beat making program from like the 90s called Acid Pro, which I used up until probably like 2020 and 2021. Yeah, so I started making beats and was making beats for like local rappers in Lancaster and whatnot, and we would kind of like screw around and freestyle and whatnot, and I was like the funny guy that just said like wild stuff in freestyles, and somebody was like, yo, you should record a song for real. And so I did that, and it sounded how it sounded, but then I just kind of was like, hey, I want to like rap over my own stuff, and then before you know it,
yeah, I could do this. No more of this Weird Al stuff. We're going original. Yeah,
for sure.
That's cool, man. So like, starting in the church and, to where you are today, how how did that start and that environment impact what you do today, or why you do it, or do you feel like you still have roots in what you do that comes from that, or like how is all that like kind of come to fruition, even though life hasn't finished, but like.
Yeah, I love that question, and I always kind of pay homage to the church and my upbringing, because what I didn't realize, because I wasn't pursuing music, I was actually pursuing what's it called, visual art before any of this, and that's a big part of my life still. But I was being trained to be musically inclined, you know what I mean? So before I even started music, I knew how to harmonize, I knew like song structure, I knew how to do a lot of things. So I kind of felt like I had a competitive edge, and kind of knew how to do a whole lot of things kind of going in. And so I always attribute that to being raised in the church, and have a whole lot of respect and homage that I pay to that, to the point where I reached out to my old pastor and was like, hey, I want to professionally record some of the songs that I just grew up listening to, you know what I mean? Especially while those people are still here. You know,
like hymnals and stuff?
Yeah, because they're up in age, and like my church is like well known for some of the songs. And
dude, if you do that, I want to be there. I love hymnals. That's one thing that took me away from the church. Not saying I still have my own walk with God, and it's I kind of live with what Denzel Washington says, and I look up to him a lot. I love his music, his message. Is I try my best to put God first in everything I do, even though there's days where I, but I'm also, so it's a crazy time in the world. Many people think because you're Christian, you're like, oh, you can't associate with this or that. I'm like, well, no, so many people say what the Bible says, and then I open the Bible and read it. I'm like, oh, well, that's what he said, not you. And it's not like I'm not going to push them down, but it's like the moral is like, not to judge people, but if you have brothers and sisters in the Lord, those are the people that he's like, hey, those are the ones you need to be a little more pushy to, meaning like, hey, they've chosen the same path. And it's like everyone else, you have to live by that example like Jesus did. He wasn't like, hey, all you disciples make signs. We need gift bags. We need streamers. We need everything. So that way everyone will start to come to us. It's like, no, they just went through these towns and people chose to follow. It was on their own will. So it's that mentality of I don't judge anybody. I can't do that, and I won't do that. But like people that share my walk in life, even though I'm not a perfect example, I do try to help hold them accountable, and I expect the same. And I've always looked at it that way. And the church is like, well, maybe you should be a better Christian and go out and talk to the people that don't agree. I'm like, but that seems very me knowing kind of how the conversation is going to go, talking to someone who's like, go talk to those Satanists. I'm like, I don't think that's going to go well, man. I'm like, I'm just saying, I don't think that's going to work like you think. Why don't you do it,
Yeah, I'm just kind of at the point now, and I'm still, just like anybody else, kind of revamping and building my personal relationship with God. I don't consider myself a Christian, but I don't know what I consider myself. You know what I mean? If somebody asks, like, are you a Christian? I'd probably be like, not today. You know what I mean? Because it can always change, But yeah, I think my relationship with God, I don't think has ever been better. And I'm just open, you know what I mean? Like, I watched a documentary on Satanism, and a lot of that
and
was
they're not
insightful.
like worshiping Satan,
you know what I mean? It's
damn
so,
it.
Right, it's so tongue-in-cheek. It's like, how can we piss off a certain community? It's like, all right, let's call ourselves Satanists, you know what I mean? And let that be representative of whatever, or like even like East Asian culture, and like
well,
certain
it's so cool
stuff.
too. You look at the ancient shamans of like the ancient, Asia and Eastern, Western, whatever, kind of near Russia, like those mountains up there, like they're natives, like the Native Americans here. And you look at like what them and reading the Pope of Old, dude, I've been reading that and I'm like, oh, what the hell? Like that's the Mayan Bible. I'm like, what? That doesn't even make sense, dude. How'd you draw an astronaut? Who are you talking to? What was the alien's name? I have other questions now, but it's a lot of religions all kind of do. If people don't go off what people are saying and they just look into it, which I've tried to study many religions just that way. If I ever talk with someone and they believe that, I'm like, I have a little bit of perspective, and I'm not like saying, someone who's Buddhist is like, drinking Kool-Aid. I've got like some of the stuff right to where I'm not insulting. But it's most of them do share a lot of things, which lets me know there's some truth to all of this at the end. You know, it's like I enjoy the journey of looking for it.
Yeah.
But the perspective makes it to where if I want to go to a country like Peru and study the pyramids, I don't think they're just going to kill me.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's like I don't have that fear because now I understand why these people did with it. Because it always starts with religion. In ancient civilizations, that's the core.
Right.
That is the freaking Mecca. That is it. Whether that be freaking pyramids and freaking sphinxes and all that kind of stuff, or whether it be God or anything, that's where it all derives. And so if I can like figure out what they were doing and why, it takes a lot of fear of the world out,
right?
And it gains a lot more perspective as to why some of these countries and islands choose to just stay uncivilized and things like that, and just refuse to come to the modern world. I'm like, you look at the Amish, and it's like I got this great joke, and I know a few Amish people that come to the zoo like once a week. And I told them, you know, part of the stand-up joke, and they always change when I'm doing stand-up, and it's always a joke. I don't hate anybody, but I'm going to have a lot of fun. I'll do a lot of self-making fun of first, and you know, I make fun of Christians a lot too before I go into anything else, because that's what I believe, and just that way people know I'm not picking on everyone. But it's whenever I look at things like I just lost part of my train of thought. I said ADD kicking in. I can't remember where I was going with it, man. But yeah, continue on with about your music project, and it's coming out April 12th. And you know, what are your goals with it? And to make some music videos and stuff to go with it after the fact. And
I'm trying to not get ahead of myself, because then I'll kind of spiral into a bunch of creative endeavors rather than like looking at it from like it's a constant conflict between like the creative mind and the business mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I want to do this thing, and your bank's like, no, stop, please. So yeah, just trying to stay rooted in what my kind of goals are commercially for the project. And that's to get sales and whatnot, and eventually find a way to justify doing more creative things around it, you know? But yeah, getting the project out. I'm doing an art installation for the album release, so I'll have my canvases up and stuff, and artwork centered around the album, which is another reason why it's kind of special, because I'm really just kind of implementing all of the creative endeavors. I'm getting back to, you know, visual art and some of my roots.
What does that mean, art installation? Like when you say all your canvases, like you're going to draw the physical artwork for it?
Yeah, so it'll be at a gallery. Like
that's cool.
The album release will be at a gallery, and it'll be open for a week for people to kind of come in. And,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so opening night will be the release party, where all the people that come will listen to the album for the first time together. And then, like I said, the artwork will be up throughout the week for other people to kind of swing by and experience it.
No, that's cool, man. That's definitely I don't think I've heard of anyone doing that. I'm sure someone has, but that's a cool way to do it.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, I'm super excited for it, and that's kind of like my my mantra moving forward. It's like, how can we? I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but like, there's so many other ways to use said wheel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are some cool other experiences and unorthodox ways of doing stuff? You know?
Yeah, no, that's cool, man, and having that mentality will keep you from feeling like you're in limbo in music. Because if you could figure that out, you know, 12 to 15 years into doing music already, it's like, that's why most bands, dude, they give up. Because being in like bands, at least I can relate to that pretty heavily. It's like being in a marriage with a bunch of people. When it's great, it's great. When it's not, it's like, God, it sucks.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like, if you can figure out that creative edge to keep things different and changing and, you know, unique and just fluid, you know, it makes it to where, I mean, you're not working, you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
You know, it changes it just changes the whole thing, in my opinion. That's why I enjoy playing music much more now. I don't care about the money, and then the money kind of shows. I got this drum set endorsement, and it was cool. I wasn't even looking for it, and I was like, wow. That counts as money because I can't afford that. That's sweet. I'm taking that. Yeah. And it's a super cool company, and they're cool with working with me, being unfiltered and saying a lot of crazy stuff on the internet. They're like, "No, you're good, man. Keep doing what you're doing." I'm like, "Sweet. All right."
There you go. I love it. Fluid's a good word, because now that I'm like implementing more, I don't want to say more creativity, but more mediums into the process. Now I'm starting to look at things that I wanted to do conceptually as like, yo, that doesn't have to be a musical album. You know what I mean? That could be an art exhibit, or that could be this experiential thing, or that could be a fucking comic book or whatever. Or you could get other artists involved. You know what I mean? Everything doesn't have to go through this box of, you know, a hip hop album or whatever, you know?
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to hip hop, a lot of it is similar. And then you look at people. I mean, I can't speak on like his person today. He's always been the same when it comes to changing and being extreme on one direction or the other. But like Kanye West, dude, like he's always been someone that just like does something crazy as shit. And you're like, that's cool, but why are you like, what the hell? What? Like, you know, he just goes so back and forth, but he does some very experimental stuff that always will get hype, and then he'll kill his own hype or something stupid. He'll be his own demise.
Yeah.
But he's definitely has that, does something crazy as shit that doesn't fit the mold, and people are like, whoa, that's an option.
He's
you know?
such an interesting case. He's always compare him as like the cousin at the cookout that like you just have to accept. Like, you know what I mean?
Just like,
he's part of the family, but it's like you can't excuse his actions. But
no, he's definitely he's just his own thing. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's there's genius to it. I do think that he's a genius, but it's like you constantly reminding us of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's diminishing. But yeah, I totally agree with him kind of pushing the mold for things, and that's the thing about being avant-garde. And I'm strictly just talking about his creative contributions. In that it's shat on whenever it first happens, and then a couple years from now you start seeing it implemented in other things. So like even with Yeezus and all the industrial sounds and whatnot, now that's a norm that's incorporated, or even like pitch correction or distorted 808s. These aren't all his contributions, but just examples of things that you see regularly now, where things are mixed differently, or like song structure is different. Like
you can have two bridges. Right? Yeah, why not, man?
Like somebody took the fall for this thing to be publicly accepted.
Yeah, a lot of his music is that way. That's for sure. But it's like I'm listening to it either way. Maybe I know exactly how I'm gonna think at the end, but I'm like, I'm gonna listen to it because who knows? Like he's just he's freaking crazy. But like I'm happy to see that changing in an aspect of like what you're doing. It's like, nah, I'm not extreme like that. It's just we're doing some different shit, and it's extreme in that nature, but not Kanye. You know, it's like,
yeah. And there always has to be examples of that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be that contribution to society.
And by any means, not relating you to Kanye. just when it comes to like, you know, you just having that different take on things. You know, it's a cool way.
For sure.
You know, I've been trying to link up with some people, and you know, just trying to get the group together. I want to make like, I don't know. I got a friend of mine who's in school for videography and all that, and he loves it. But like, I want to do like comical shorts and record them, like just some random. I've written all these like crazy premises for like, you know, 5-minute after editing little short films that are just meant to hurt someone's gut from laughing. Like when they had a bad day, I wanted to see that and be like, oh, what was the day like? I forgot, you know. I want to just give them a little something to kind of like, you know, there you go. You know, a little different take. That's why I like Adam Sandler, man. He's one of my favorite all-time comedians. Yeah. Because he does what many people think they never thought was an option. I've seen him live twice, and he goes up and does a stand-up comedy with his guitar, and he sings these crazy jingles and does his comedy through song. And he's the best at it. He's the one who's done it for 30 years that way. And it's so cool. He's like, why can't I do both? I'm doing it. You know, it's like, why not? You know?
He's sick. I've been enjoying his serious roles.
Oh, yeah.
Like Spaceman is awesome. Uncut Gems, awesome.
The space one, when the freaking spider, I was like, what? Hold on.
Yes.
Huh?
I love it. I love it.
Even Stanley Wexler and all those, dude, I've seen all his movies. He's, I actually got approved to be in Happy Gilmore 2, and this was such a bummer last year when they were filming it, because I've always wanted to get into comedy, but I don't want to go act in Hollywood. I just want to. He owns Happy Madison. He's got his own thing. So he's like, I'm going to do my own thing. I don't need anybody's help other than my group of friends I've known for 30 years, like Rob Schneider and all those guys, David Spade. And I couldn't make it up to New Jersey. but he actually sent me a letter a few weeks back. I saw it in the mail, saw his name. I was like, I'm not opening it. It was like an autographed, photo, and he was short message just saying, hey, we know you applied for the role. We're still filming, so apply again, and we'd be happy to have you again. And I was like, that's freaking cool. I'm going next time.
Yeah.
And it's and meeting him live was about like Steve-O, but he was busy. He had to keep going. Super cool. And his shirts are like 20 sizes too big. And he's just, he's nice.
Yeah.
He's a very humble guy. Like, he's just, it's cool to see that,
Yeah. I love hearing stories like that. Yeah. Yeah. It kind of helps you visualize being in that position, because it almost seems like as soon as you get to like a certain threshold, that's when everything changes and it gets sus, and you start trafficking or doing weird shit and whatever, you know what I mean? I don't know why there's such a correlation with reaching a certain level of fame and money and suddenly you're into young children, but it's nice that there's examples where that's not the fucking case.
I feel like too, and I don't know, because I'm not, I when I listen to hip hop, it's like, I listen to not, I've listened to a lot of everything, but when I listen to stuff often, it's a small group of people. But I feel like, and overall, minus like Kendrick and Drake and all that stuff, I feel like when it comes to the whole strifing and like, hatred back and forth between coastlines or this, that, and another, it's always going to be there. But like, I feel like a lot of that is, and I may be like very naive to what's really going on, but I feel like a lot of it is slowly, becoming more about the music, maybe. I just don't hear about it as much. Maybe it's just me not hearing about it. But I feel like a lot of the negative aspects of hip hop, when people are like, I don't listen to it because of this. I'm like, valid point. But I feel like a lot of that stuff is slowly, disappearing.
I think it comes with hip hop being ubiquitous, that lines get blurred, you know what I mean? Like prior to being globalized, it's like, all right, you're clearly from this thing, you're clearly from that thing. Even with like gang culture, you know what I mean? Like you have people that are on the East Coast like claiming Crip and Blood and
it's funny,
you know what I mean, being from Slauson or whatever the case may be. So I think hip hop is a interesting genre. Not saying that this doesn't exist in other genres, but there's a whole like cultural element that's not independent, but has its own kind of sector outside of the music, and that influences fashion and what's cool and policy and blah blah blah.
And it's so crazy, man. And I can speak. These are two gifts that I've always held near and dear to me that were freaked me the hell out. But like perspectives that I have on things that beforehand I never had like any negative perspective. But I remember there was this time I was in Atlanta. I went to see a show. I was by myself, and I was at a gas station, and I was fueling up, sitting in my truck at the time, and this guy came up to my window, put a gun on my head, and he's like, "Hey, man," he's like, "Give me your money." I'm like, "Hold." I was like, "I do need to light my cigarette." I smoked at times like 12 years ago. He's like, "Hurry up." I was like, "Do you want one?" I was like, "These American Spirits." So it's like a 10-minute conversation piece. He's like, "What?" Like I was like Native American shit. There's no peyote. There was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "You just take 2 because it's like you're good for a week." And he's like, "All right, man." And he lights it and I light it. And I was like, "What do you think?" He's like, "This ain't a Newport." I'm like, "I said it's American Spirit." I was like, and he's just like, "It's kind of cool." He's like, "I feel like mystical." I was like, "Me fucking too." And I'm sitting there and he pulls the gun off my head and he's like, "Man, this shit just feels like," he's like, "There's a fucking eagle on it." I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty cool." He's like, "Hey, what are those drumsticks on your arm?" I was like, "Well, I play drums." I was like, "That's what they are." And he was like, "That's cool." He's like, "That's cool." He's like, "I do hip hop." I'm like, "Hell yeah, man." I was like, "Dude, I like to play music with everyone. I love Travis Barker, and I like playing drums and hip hop because it's something people don't think, at least 10 years ago, they don't think meshes perfectly." He's like, "That's some fucking crazy shit." And I was like, "It can be some cool shit." I was like, "Dude, I played some like crazy white people shit like Ozzy Osbourne and Megadeth." He's like, Who's Death?" I'm like, "Megadeth, actually a Christian band." But he's like, "Oh, okay." And we're talking. He puts a gun in his pocket, and I'm like, "Hey, man," I was like,
totally forgot there was a gun to your head in the beginning.
Yeah, and he puts. I give him 2 more cigarettes. He's like, "Look, man." He's like, "I'm in the Bloods." He's like, "And these guys said I need to do something tonight, I was like, "Hey, man, if I need to be a guy, go ahead." I was like, "But let's smoke 1 more cigarette and talk about this stuff." I was like, because they don't know what time. I was like, we can give them you could say, hey, it was 10 minutes ago, He's like, nah. He's like, I'm going to leave the city. I was like, hey, that's not a bad idea. And the other option's also not a bad idea. I was like, I don't know what to say. To I was like, but hey, do your thing. He was just like, well, that's cool, man. He's like, I'm going to leave. And it's always stuck with me because people are like, oh, don't go to certain parts of town. I'm like, well, I'm not going to go over there if that's not where the grocery store is that I'm going to. But I've never gave a shit, and it's never, I grew up doing years of MMA and jiu-jitsu, and I've always had this, I could physically kill someone, but I've never gotten into a fight ever outside of a mat.
Yeah.
And I've always out-talked the situation because I've always had the philosophy, if it's my time, it is my time, and I don't fear death. But even in Colombia, I had another instance happen with a different gang, and it went the same way. And when I tell these stories to certain people, they're like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe with you. Maybe you shouldn't walk around looking like, you hate the world. I was like, but I don't feel like my aura, my who I am gives off a presence of, it gives off a warrior poet, is what I like to call it. Someone who's can be empathetic and sympathetic, but can diffuse any situation if it has to be.
Yeah.
To protect, I got 2 kids, it's like to protect, but also understanding that's not always the immediate option that needs to happen. It's given me so much crazy outlook on everything I do when I play music and stuff, because I'll play some controversial shit, and drums, and like I'll do remixes and people are like, whoa, and I'm like, I'm not the rapper, it's a cool beat, now it sounds cooler, and they're like, yeah, fair. I'm like, and it's always been I was grown up, or when I was being raised, people always said music's one universal language of the world. I'm like, yeah, but I've actually seen through life that it can be, if you understand music can be a tool. How do you use it? How do you talk with it? It's not just play a song, but how do you utilize it as a language? How do you do that? And it's, I've learned that almost street skill of like how to imply it to people I can't necessarily immediately relate to, but like it's been so cool, and that's why I've like, I don't know, just I play every genre, man. I'll put my music on shuffle. It might be Elvis or Chuck Berry, and go to some metal or some Kendrick, or it'll just bounce back and forth. And I like it because it forces my brain to be confused. Yeah, it forces the time changes. I'm like, damn it, why did it? Why am I doing this now? Let's
time signatures that aren't common times stress me the fuck out in the best way possible. But yeah, music's a language just like any other actual language. That's why we have different genres. What might sound like a uplifting whatever to us might be the saddest song ever in India, or whatever the case may be. And then even your story with that guy, it just kind of goes to show that regardless, similar to religion, similar to music and everything, there's always something like fundamental that connects all of us whenever you move all the extra shit out of the way. And I think the issue a lot of times is moving all of that away is incredibly difficult, and it's a lot easier and way more convenient to just say, you're this thing and this is how we should handle this thing right now. You know what I mean? It's like that with everything. It's like if you think that something's black and white and it's like, this is right, this is wrong, that's so much easier than saying, well, here's blue, here's another shade of blue, here's a darker shade of blue, oh, here's purple people now. You know what I mean? And constantly having to adapt and challenge your own belief systems and grow and whatnot. Like, that's difficult. Sometimes that's annoying. You know what I mean? And yeah, so
you got to like go to war with yourself, or like, even for people that do believe in Christianity, I tell people this all the time. Like, if you choose that path, I'm like, I'm not telling you to do this, but this is what's made it so unique for me, is like, I literally have to go to war with God. I'm like, I have to let him know that like I have questions. I have things that like I'm very passionate about knowing this, that, and another, but also have to understand, like, it's like in Bruce Almighty, like, he can smite me, Almighty Smiter. Like, it's like I have the understanding of fear and love and balance. So everything's come back to my life today to one word, which is balance. Like, how do I balance everything? It's not necessarily how much drums I play in a day. It's like, why am I playing every day?
Yeah.
If I find out why I'm playing, then I just do it and I don't put a time. You know, and it's like, and stuff happens naturally, you know?
Yeah.
And it's been cool. It's ever changing. You got to work on yourself every day. It's the growing process, you know?
Yeah, it kind of helps you take things less serious. The act of taking things less serious is a very serious act in itself.
No, yeah, I agree, man.
For sure.
Well, I know too, you got some plans here in a little bit, man. I don't want to hold you too much longer, but you know, for one, dude, this has been awesome. I've absolutely been a absolute pleasure having you as a guest and talking, man. We'll have to do it again soon.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm definitely excited about your new album, April 12th. It'll be where will be available Spotify. Well, no, go to his website, buy the little CD.
Yeah.
Screw all those stuff. Get the cool thing.
CD. Yeah.
Do that.
So both of those things will be available on the 12th. Like I said, the streaming version of it, and then the full version. Yeah, I'm just stoked for it, man. I'm just kind of excited for everything. I'm expressing gratitude regularly. I'm trying to stay present, you know, all of that, and then falling in love with the journey again, you know.
That's awesome, man. Well, like I said, I appreciate it. And everyone, like, subscribe, and make sure you go follow PATx, lower X, on all the socials. I am PATx. I'm pretty sure that's it.
Yep, that's it.
Go like it. I mean, he's got some wisdom, man. Every day he's like drinking his tea, talking about something cool. I'm like, damn, that's cool. That's that mystical knowledge I needed to know the day versus that stupid video I was just watching. This is better, you know? So definitely go check it out. Support him. Back to South Carolina. Welcome back. Welcome home to the armpit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. The armpit.
Yeah, the little human cesspool. It's like, oh. Cool, man. And until next time, I appreciate it.
For sure. Thank you.